You guys had a great first day here at Summit? All right, fantastic. I've had an absolutely amazing day. So thanks again so much to Tempo for being our platinum sponsor. And thanks so much for that video. So you can kind of tell Tempo is a creative and quirky company, kind of just like Atlassian, and so they've been a great business partner of ours. But like Atlassian, they build great products for so many different companies. So again, I'm Brian Rollins, and I'm the general manager for the JIRA family, which means I'm responsible for product marketing, product management, and most importantly, engineering for the entire JIRA family. And it's always a pleasure to be here at Summit. As always, we've got a lot of familiar faces, folks who I've gotten to talk to year after year. But wow, a lot of new faces as well. And so it's just fantastic to have you all here at Summit. Now, I'm personally incredibly excited to be here today, and that includes myself and all the members of the JIRA family who've actually come to Summit. It's such a great opportunity for us to get to meet each and every one of you face to face and talk about what you've been doing with JIRA in the last year. So this is a really, really big deal for us to get to spend this time with you, so thanks so much for coming to Summit. Now, we've had a great last year since we saw you at last Summit. Just like there are more of you here at Summit, there are more JIRA customers around the world than ever before. And this number doesn't even include the tens of thousands of starter licenses used by organizations around the world. And we actually have also 10 new countries have joined the JIRA family. So it brings our total number of countries where there are JIRA customers to 131. And in all those countries, there are more and more users every day. So over 10 million users of JIRA. And that's all thanks to you and your evangelism and support of our products. And again, this number is growing every single day. So last Summit, we also launched JIRA Service Desk, which is actually breaking Atlassian records left and right. It's the fastest growing product ever built by Atlassian in Atlassian history. In fact, it's so big, it now gets its own keynote. So you won't hear me talk a lot about JIRA Service Desk today, so definitely check out Didier's keynote tomorrow morning. It's fantastic. Also in the last year, we rebranded the names of our deployment options. So what we often referred to as maybe JIRA for download or on-premise or behind the firewall, it's now JIRA Server. What we used to refer to as JIRA On Demand, our hosted version of JIRA, is now called JIRA Cloud. And we introduced a third deployment option this year, JIRA Data Center. And I'll talk a lot more about that later as our offering for large enterprises. So the focus of this year's summit, much like the last few years, is teams. And that's no surprise, because teams are actually the focus for Atlassian and the focus for JIRA. And wow, we're at an amazing time in history. Or if I think just back a few years, I often take for granted every day how different teamwork is, how the teams that I'm a part of operate on a completely different level than the teams from before. So in order to appreciate what I have today, I thought back to my very first team. So straight out of college, my first week in my first job as a software development professional, and what that was like. Well, in that very first week, I was essentially handcuffed to our company's CTO and told that we'd be building an integration between our company's latest product and a large ERP system. And I was going to have to work with an external consulting company to accomplish this mission. Now, to protect the names of the guilty in this story, all participants will be called Bob. So first I found out that I'd be taking a round trip from Austin, Texas to Delaware every week because we all had to be in the same room in order to collaborate. We all had to be looking at each other in order to stay on the same page. Now again, I was excited about being a software development professional, but soon I found out that the manager of this team, Bob, well, he was writing most of the code, which was a little bit alarming. And for weeks I asked to see the code, and when I eventually saw it, well, it looked something like this. I was really excited to learn for the first time about how automated testing was done in the real world. And so I met Bob the tester, and I heard about Bob the tester's test scripts, which are actually Word documents stored on his personal hard drive. And the team never really seemed to be on the same page, all named Bob, of course. And so while one team member would actually be doing a demo with a customer, another team member would bring down the demo server. I started every day like a condemned prisoner. After my stale bagel and lukewarm coffee from a convenience store, my day was downhill from there. I was excited about building great products. I was excited about actually being a part of a great team. Instead, I spent 3 months with a really bad set of tools. And I mean that in both definitions of the word. Now, luckily, teams have come a long, long way since then. And technology is actually a huge part of that. A major part of that is due to the tools we use. We're more connected, we're more integrated, and as a result, we're delivering more faster. But you know what? This isn't the first time this has happened. So travel back with me, to the 1800s, where steam-powered manufacturing, that was all the rage. That was the cool thing, steam power. And factories, they'd be entirely organized around a centralized steam engine with drive belts running all through the factory. Factories were built on multiple floors, and machines had to be put according to how close they needed to be to the steam engine. A few years later, the electric dynamo was introduced, a huge innovation and kind of the precursor to the modern electric motor of today. But what a lot of companies did is they just swapped out their steam engine for an electric dynamo. As a result, productivity barely improved. It was a while later that companies began to realize they could reorganize their whole factory by actually having small electric dynamos spread throughout the organization, and that they could actually rearrange the flow of products throughout the factory floor based on what made sense. And it led to new manufacturing techniques, like those that were pioneered by Henry Ford. So technology actually changed the way and changed what products could be built as a result. So teamwork can be changed by technology. And our goal in JIRA is actually give you the tools to track and organize your work better and better, which will make you more productive and help you achieve better results, and let you create new types of teams that don't resemble the old way of working. So what do these new software teams look like? What are they composed of? Well, we've moved from siloed teams and siloed individuals to integrated teams and connected teams. We've moved from hierarchical, top-down command and control models to autonomous, independent, and even sometimes crowdsourced teams. We've gone from teams where everything is opaque to where everything is transparent and you can see data and even the structure of the team and understand how it's organized. And we've moved from places where we have different, disconnected, and often conflicting sources of data towards a place where we can have a single source of truth. But in many ways, in our new world, teamwork's become harder. So in many cases, we have more and more different skill sets on our team. It's not just developers anymore. We now have designers on our teams. We now have data scientists on our teams. And the diversity of this team is helping us build better and better products and meet our customers' needs. But the diversity of the team is still a challenge. We're not even in the same office sometimes as the rest of our team, or even in the same country. And there are more external dependencies, more external relationships. Challenges grow by the day. So in JIRA, we want to help you address these challenges by helping your team be faster, helping your team be more connected, and giving you a single source of truth. So to help your teams be faster, in JIRA Agile, we focused on making sure that you get the better information that you need to make decisions. With reporting, generating a chart, well, that's the easy part. Actually having that significant meaning and helping you make decisions, that's the challenge. So with our epic burndown and release burndown reports, you don't just see the trend in the line. You can understand the why. Why did we actually not deliver all the work we had in this particular sprint? Well, did the scope change? Was more scope added? Or did we simply underestimate or overestimate what we thought we could accomplish in this period of time? Those are the insights we want. And while you may have 1 to 2 people in your organization who are trained Scrum Masters, most people have actually learned Agile on the job. And so we've added explanatory text to every single one of our Agile reports. So the first time one of your new team members sees a control chart, they don't go into shock. And we've added the ability to zoom on any of our timeline reports. So you can drill down further and further and further. So you can understand what went wrong in a particular period of time, or maybe better, you can understand what went right and share it with other teams. And as always, we want you to drill down to get to the source, to the true data, which in JIRA is often the core set of issues. So you can always follow links like this to actually get to the specific issues in the JIRA Issue Navigator. And those sorts of decisions are what can lead you to a higher velocity. Now, create issue. We create a lot of issues, stories, and bugs. And so we've actually always focused on making it faster and faster to create issues in JIRA. And we've got a video here to show you what that looks like inside of Agile boards. Now, often as more and more software teams, they're using Agile boards on a daily basis. In fact, the vast majority of our software teams throughout Atlassian's customers use Agile boards. And so that means they're creating issues when they're in the board. Maybe they're in actually a sprint planning meeting, and they're actually building the backlog on the fly. So we've added the ability to simply create issues quickly inline in the backlog. Maybe you're the product owner who's actually creating those backlogs right before a meeting. We want to make that faster and faster for you as well. That's just one small example of many of the things where we're trying to make your day quicker and quicker so you can do more. And with each of your teams being unique, you may plan a very different way. So when you're planning, again, you want to focus on making the right decision and making that decision quickly. But people use different factors in our decision. In Agile, you can't always use a numeric business value to prioritize. It's often hard to calculate that numeric business value, and it's often really opaque about why you're actually prioritizing it. So we've added the ability in Agile cards to customize the fields that you see based on the use case that you have. So a lot of teams, you actually do work for external customers. So knowing actually who that customer is helps you make a decision around prioritization. Other teams are actually very driven sometimes by the date that they need to deliver a story. And so they want to focus on the due date for a particular story. And you've shared with us things like that the status of an issue in JIRA is actually really important to prioritization. Maybe you always want to make sure that any work you've started that you may not have completed in the previous sprint, that's visible so you know to move those stories to the top of the backlog. So we've added the ability to customize cards in the planning view in JIRA Agile. But similarly, there are a lot of fields that you may want to see on cards when you're in work mode. And so we've added the ability to customize those cards in work mode as well. And those fields may be completely different than the fields that you want to see when you're prioritizing your work in planning. Now, this also happens to be the highest voted feature in JIRA Agile history, with over 780 votes. And there's actually a bunch of you here in the room today who voted for this feature. And in fact, those specific use cases that I just shared came specifically from customers who voted on the issue and shared their feedback and use cases with us. So thank you guys for actually helping us make this issue fit your use cases and be great and flexible for all JIRA customers. Thanks so much for that. So last summit, we actually showed you the first couple of chapters in our new integrations across the Atlassian suite of tools. The very first chapter was the ability to take an unstructured set of requirements and turn them into a structured backlog in JIRA. That you could take a Confluence page, maybe a table that you'd captured from a set of customer interviews, or maybe even a brainstorming session among your team, and automatically turn that into a set of epics and stories in JIRA. And that those could be linked both from the requirements documents in Confluence into the backlog in JIRA, and vice versa. We also showed you the second chapter, which was the ability to begin work in development tools immediately from JIRA, so that as soon as a story was assigned to a developer, you could actually create a branch in Bitbucket or Stash to begin coding on that particular story, getting developers into their work mode as quickly as possible. But that was just the beginning. We've taken our integrations across our tools much, much further in the last year. Because with so much work happening in parallel in dev teams, we need a way for everyone on the team to understand the progress of an issue and to have visibility into what's actually going on and what's happening with that issue. We often say at Atlassian that code talks. And so we want to expose whether there's been actual coding or it's just been talking. So here we've created a branch for the story. And now you can see that branch. So now you know exactly where the code lives for this particular story, and you can follow it through. Now, as soon as we've made our first commit, the commit shows up. Now, in this example, we're actually using a branch plan in Bamboo that's automatically created when the code branch is created. And so our first commit's actually broken that build. But after we've made a few more commits, hey, we've finished our story, our automated tests are passing. And so now we'll open a pull request so a peer can review our code. And hey, the pull request has actually been accepted. You know, our friends, they dig our code. They think we're all right. it looks great to our peers. And the automated deployment to staging occurs whenever a merge back to master is successful. Every single step is actually visible inside of the issue. So for each issue, you know the reality of the activity behind it and whether it's truly meeting your definition of done, or again, if it's been all talk and no code. So another thing you got to see this morning in the Atlassian keynote that's worth repeating is in JIRA 6.3, we've gone beyond just showing you the detailed status in the code, but we allow you to automatically transition an issue based on events in your dev tools. Now, you could choose to actually automate every step in your workflow, or you could only choose to automate some of them. So you can automatically move an issue to in progress as soon as you have maybe a commit, or maybe you do it as soon as you branch. And once a pull request is issued, you can move that particular story into in review. And again, maybe once a pull request is accepted or that code is merged, you'd move it into done. Every step could be automated. And you can also move backwards in the workflow as well. Maybe a done story, if someone reopens a pull request, it should move backwards. Maybe if there's additional commits going on with that code, it needs to move back in the workflow as well. And here your developers can focus on what they love, which is writing code rather than updating status. Now to automate a transition, there's actually a wide variety of triggers to choose from. And it's incredibly easy to set up a trigger. It's actually started right from the workflow designer, and a couple of clicks, and you're all set up. So having each issue provide a detailed view of its accurate picture of its status, and as well as automated transitions, they're pretty awesome. But in every release, there's more than just one issue. So how across all of these issues, no matter how fast you release, can you actually keep track of everything that's going on? Let me illustrate this challenge with an Atlassian story. So 3 years ago, Paul Slade, the head of engineering for the JIRA team, would spend time at his desk pouring through the SVN commits that were occurring, looking for any anomalies, trying to find out what was actually happening in the code. And Paul would constantly monitor the set of builds in Bamboo to see which ones were red and which ones were green. And Paul would circle throughout the team, interviewing, and some might say interrogating, individual developers on what they'd been up to and what they'd been working on. Well, a lot of people have big key performance indicators. A lot of people have big strategic goals. We wanted to let Paul sit at his desk and eat a sandwich. And so, this is the new version experience in JIRA. At a glance, you can understand, how is the release going? Am I ready to release? Are the issues committed to this version in a state that says go or stop? So this gives not just the development manager, but everyone on the team a clear picture of where the risks are for a release. So first, what's in my release? Show me a list of epics in this release. Show me how we're progressing towards them. And I can roll them up to actually take a top-level view and say, hey, is this release going to deliver what we expected? Is this release going to deliver what my customers expected? What's even more exciting is we've taken all that information that's in the dev panel, and we've added some intelligence on top of it to try to look and detect for any things that might be surprises for you in your upcoming release. So, for example, is there code in my release with open pull requests? So am I about to ship code that hasn't even been reviewed? Or are there broken builds? So maybe at one point in time, these builds were green, but some of my branch builds may have gone red. Have we regressed before release? Are there issues I need to look at? And possibly the worst is there code that hasn't even been submitted for the review process? Is there code that's sneaking into my release that somehow has circumvented our entire definition of done? This is the type of information we want to provide to the entire team at a glance: developers, product owners, and development managers. This will actually soon be available as a labs feature in JIRA Cloud, so you can actually try it out yourself. Now, this integration between all of our products, it lets you have a deeper, transparent view into everything happening inside your code and inside your builds. So being faster, connected, and having that single source of truth, it can prevent us all from being a team of Bobs. Now, so being faster, connected, it's all great. But where do we get these words? Where do we get faster and connected and single source of truth from? Well, they come from stories that you tell us, you, our customers. And a team that's actually changed the way they organize their work is Trulia. So let Trulia tell you their story.
Trulia is a technology company. We revolutionize real estate search. We help consumers find places to live and understand the market and find their perfect home.
We have a team of engineers that are spread out in multiple locations. It's a distributed team that runs in a very agile manner to ensure that we can deliver quality product faster. We use JIRA, we use JIRA Agile, we use Stash, and we use Confluence. We have integrated all of those tools together to save time and to give developers a single point of visibility and truth into the work items that they are working on.
JIRA serves as a source of truth for the entire engineering team. It's the repository where we store everything, from feature requests to ideas to epics to bugs, and it's instrumental in building and maintaining the best possible product out there.
Trulia has been growing incredibly, and Agile runs into scaling challenges. We've really leveraged JIRA and the Atlassian suite to expedite and enhance and scale our Agile practices.
Some of the biggest benefits we've seen from using JIRA and the Atlassian suite have come in terms of reducing friction as a developer will work between JIRA and Stash. Whereas previously they would be using different tools, now it's a wholly integrated system, both during development time as well as during debugging time.
We're able to leverage automatic transitions between JIRA and Stash so users don't have to jump back and forth between the two tools.
Just the mere ability to connect all these things seamlessly actually makes it simple for us to say, okay, I have this pull request open, what is the actual ticket item for it, like which release is it supposed to go into, and then tying back to what was the impetus for it, what was the history of how this feature was conceived.
Using JIRA and Stash together, developers have absolutely been able to increase transparency across the entire engineering organization. We have visibility into not only what the teams are working on through JIRA, but then we are able to have visibility into all of our code and manage our code and make sure that our release process is healthy as well.
We really try and have people doing what they like to do best. For most engineers, that means writing code. So JIRA and Stash really fit together to remove barriers for engineers to focus more on what they really want to do, which is to write code.
And happy and productive developers are fundamental to the success of the business. We can churn better products faster, everyone is engaged, and engaged developers are fundamental to the success of our business.
Awesome. Thank you, Trulia, for sharing that story with us. That's absolutely fantastic. So transparency and a single source of truth and letting developers code. And not just JIRA, JIRA together with Confluence and Stash that are making the difference for this team. So if you'd actually like to hear more about how Trulia transformed their development process, Nate's actually here at Summit, and so he's got a talk tomorrow, so definitely check it out. Now, as you also saw in the Trulia video, you saw a glimpse of one of their really large team meetings. So they're growing like crazy. And a lot of you who I've talked to today, you're growing too. Well, heck, a lot of you are actually pretty large organizations to begin with already. And so how do we actually deal with the challenges of Agile at scale? How do we actually foster that spirit of independence inside of our teams, but still have an overall plan? So with so many projects going on, how do we make sure that actually letting independence occur doesn't lead to chaos, and that allowing flexibility actually doesn't mean that we can't have a strategic direction or a roadmap? Well, first, we're going to need visibility across our projects and across our teams. We're also going to need to be able to do release planning and capacity planning across our projects and across our teams. And we need to make sure that those plans are actually connected into our overall strategy. And most importantly, we need to respond to changes that actually occur. There are about 1,000 cliches in the world about how plans always change, and that's because it's true. And so in the face of reality, you need to be able to make decisions on how to deal with that, so that the reality of your teams is taken into account and your strategy is taken into account in order to make those decisions about what you're going to do. You need to actually be able to see the iceberg coming, and you need to be able to move the ship fast enough in order to avoid it. And these capabilities are actually critical for the entire team. So your business owner, they need to understand and be able to set strategic priorities across your projects. Your head of engineering or head of IT wants to actually be able to synchronize and distribute work across those teams. And your team members, developers, product managers, designers, QA, tech writers, they want to understand their picture in the overall whole so that everyone on the team is connected to your vision and your strategy, to have everyone with a shared picture of reality. You know, it's far too often that planning tools and reporting tools are built with the executives in mind, and it's often because they're only sold to executives. But it's something the entire team can use to get on the same page and share that reality. So we need to plan at scale, we need to respond to change, and we need to provide a unified picture across all of our teams. And this is why we're incredibly excited about the newest member of the JIRA family, JIRA Portfolio. Let's take a deeper look. So I said you need to be able to plan at scale. What does that mean? Well, you want to plan at a level that's above stories, even above epics. And in many agile teams, that's actually what initiatives are used for. Initiatives are simply encompassing a number of epics together. And so you can start by planning an initiative and break it down into epics, and even go further in JIRA Portfolio to break it down into stories if you want, or leave story and subtask breakdown for the teams. You can actually also use themes. And so themes is simply a way to represent a strategy that cuts across multiple initiatives. Maybe it's a strategic focus area for your organization. So you can plan across projects and across teams and link your team's plans with the high-level themes of the business through JIRA Portfolio. But plans, as we talked about, hey, they need to be dynamic. You often need to reprioritize work. So right now, our 1.0 release for teams in space, well, it's due to ship about the end of November. But we've actually decided that we're going to add our new initiative to go to the moon to our 1.0 release. No one's ever added scope to a 1.0 release before. I'm sure this is all new. And JIRA Portfolio actually tells us that if we do that, we're actually going to move our release date according to the estimates that we've provided and according to the current capacity of our teams. That's going to shift about a month, so well into December. And JIRA Portfolio will actually tell us where this work has actually been scheduled in our current team's work streams. So our release has slid an entire month. Everyone loves to hear that. But let's say we're working towards a fixed deadline. We really want to ship 1.0 before December for, the big Christmas rush for everyone who wants to travel to the moon for the holidays. So JIRA Portfolio actually tells us, if we tell it that we want a fixed release date, that unfortunately, this isn't possible given our current capacity and given our current estimates by turning our release line red. So could the oldest trick in the book, adding a new team member, make a difference here? Well, let's see. By adding a new team member, who, since this person is new, we're going to make them work 50 hours a week on this project since they don't know any better. And now our release timeline has actually turned green. So we have a proposed schedule that actually pulls in the date, and this gives us something to work with in detail now. And this is key to agile planning at scale. It's actually blurring the lines between planning and execution. You're continually planning, you're continually executing, and you want a realistic picture that follows your path. So that automated schedule and capacity planning, where you just saw a quick example of, that takes into account your team size and availability, the specific skill set of those additional team members, and any dependencies that you may have across work items. It's great for estimation. It gives you that first sort of head start into thinking about what your release schedule might be. But it does not give you an excuse for stopping your agile practices, for stopping caring about quality, for start thinking about what your team can really deliver, and to stop caring about delivering the right things for customers and become entirely date-driven. JIRA Portfolio also allows you to track progress along those top set of initiatives. So you can actually get signals on progress on how things are going at a high level. This is actually a view of progress for each particular initiative. And this progress is actually being rolled up from work in JIRA, from subtasks and stories and epics into the overall initiative. And when is this work being delivered? You want a visual timeline of each initiative and how it relates to your major milestones. You can also slice and dice and organize the data in different fashion. So here, I've actually split out our initiative timeline by team, so we can actually see what each team is delivering within each initiative. Now here, we actually have a lot of work, a lot of initiatives for one particular team that are all starting in parallel. Maybe that's not the best idea that this team is spread across so many initiatives. Maybe we need to focus them. These are the types of insights that you can get from JIRA Portfolio. And you can understand your investments across strategic themes. What was your original target investment? You can even compare it to reality. Now, many of you are probably asking, what scaled, what enterprise, what agile framework are we using in JIRA Portfolio? What about SAFe, the scaled agile framework? Wow. What about large-scale Scrum? What about any other framework that may emerge in the future? Well, the Atlassian and the JIRA philosophy, very similar to our approach with Kanban and with Scrum, is that we're not going to force a particular framework or force a particular methodology on our customers. But we've built a flexible enough tool that we believe you can use the scaled agile or enterprise agile framework that you feel like is appropriate for your team and modify them. So we believe the tools that you have with JIRA Portfolio can help provide the foundation for almost any approach that you want to take. Now, we've actually had customers who've been working using JIRA Portfolio for a number of months now. And they've been a huge part of helping us shape the initial release of this particular project. So thanks to folks like Thorsten, who helped us shape our first launch at Atlassian. So an agile, continuous process of planning, not just upfront planning. Responding quickly using smart estimation, giving you a guide, not a dictate, and connecting the big picture of your strategy to the reality of where your software development process lives. And where does software development process lives? Where is that reality? That reality lives in JIRA. So, keep planning, keep dreaming, keep innovating, and stay flexible. Now, as always with Atlassian, this is just the beginning. I'm incredibly excited about JIRA Portfolio, not just what it delivers today, but what's in store for the future. If you'd like to see even more on JIRA Portfolio, there's actually a session in the demo den tomorrow, right around 12:30, so definitely check it out. Now, with so many teams across all those projects that we just talked about in your organization, JIRA's become a mission-critical application in so many of your environments. We track a number of the largest enterprise instances in the JIRA customer base. And what we've seen in the last years has been tremendous in terms of growth. Those largest JIRA instances that we track are getting bigger and bigger, and it seems to be accelerating. Where now, to even be in the top 20% of those instances, 500,000 issues doesn't even qualify. Almost 1,000 projects in that top 20%. Massive numbers of custom fields. The largest JIRA instances have actually grown by more than 50% in both projects and issues over the last couple of years, and more than doubled over the last 2 years in terms of the number of users. And so, to support the scale and the importance of JIRA in these large customer environments, it's why we introduced JIRA Data Center. It's got the same features as JIRA Server, but you can run it on multiple physical or virtual hardware in your environment to provide availability and horizontal scale. And as you saw in Mike's keynote, we've tested up to 4 nodes in our performance labs and seen near horizontal scaling across them. Now, in clustering JIRA, we wanted to make sure it worked in real-world enterprise environments. So that's why we created the JIRA Data Center Pioneer Program. And so we worked with 10 enterprise customers around JIRA Data Center. Now, we didn't just test JIRA Data Center in their test or their dev or their staging environments. We actually worked with customers and put JIRA Data Center in production. And the results that we got from our Pioneer program were fantastic. We saw the same availability and scalability results that were similar to our own performance labs. So thanks to all those customers who were part of our Pioneer program. And the actual first Pioneer, no surprise, was actually Atlassian itself. So jira.atlassian.com, which is used by a large number of development teams in JIRA, and is, for most of you, our public feature request and bug tracking system, has actually been a JIRA Data Center instance since March. So we've actually been running a 2-node JIRA cluster at Atlassian for about 6 months now. And add-ons, they work great with JIRA Data Center. At launch just a couple of months ago, we had over 59 of our marketplace add-ons that were JIRA Data Center compatible. And now here at Summit, we're well over 100 add-ons that are JIRA Data Center compatible. In fact, about 70% of add-ons actually don't need any changes whatsoever to be compatible with Data Center. So you're going to see more and more add-ons become Data Center compatible in very short order. Now, how many of you actually have your own custom JIRA plugins that are written for your particular instance? You've got custom plugins that you've written to customize. Awesome, fantastic, lots of you out here. It's one of the great powers of JIRA. Well, that's no problem at all. So we actually have a guide on developer.atlassian.com so you can know what you need to do to become cluster ready. And again, about 70% of you aren't going to have to do anything at all. So definitely check out the guide. Another great thing, and actually, did folks see Peter's talk today? So Peter is actually one of our Pioneer customers, and he's actually here at Summit and told his story about being a JIRA Data Center Pioneer Program customer. So thanks again to Peter and all those Pioneer customers. But JIRA Data Center is not just about clustering JIRA. JIRA Data Center is the future offering for scale and infrastructure for our largest enterprise customers. In fact, right now, we're actually working on a disaster recovery solution as a part of JIRA Data Center. So beyond just high availability within a single data center, to fail over to a single remote node in another data center. Now, we're very interested in your feedback now that clustering and soon disaster recovery will be available on what you'd like to see next. Is it archiving? Some of you have talked to me about better integration with monitoring infrastructure. Definitely let us know. And we've heard from you loud and clear over the last couple of years from the introduction of our first enterprise offerings that you really valued the dedicated enterprise support teams with expertise on your applications. And so we've introduced, a little applause for our support teams. We've introduced a premier support offering with, again, dedicated engineers with experience in working with enterprise customer problems. And a lot of you have said that you want a closer relationship with Atlassian, so we introduced technical account managers so that Atlassian-wide, you can get a better understanding of how to best use Atlassian tools in your environment. So there are 3 new offerings for JIRA customers: JIRA Data Center, Atlassian Premier Support, and Atlassian Technical Account Managers. And of course, Confluence Data Center is now available, and Stash Data Center is in beta. So our enterprise programs have really taken a leap forward year after year. But improvements for enterprises are not just in new offerings, like JIRA Data Center. We're going to continue to build new enterprise features that apply to all versions of JIRA. A great example of actually this is auditing. So there aren't a lot of small startups or individual teams who care that much about administrative auditing. But for some of our large customers, it's very important, sometimes for compliance reasons. So in the last year, we've added an administrative audit log to JIRA and improved it release after release. Another example of this is actually the ability to schedule a snapshot of the JIRA index. It's great for local disaster recovery, even if you're not running data center. All in all, we've come a long way from our enterprise offerings of just 2 years ago, and it only gets better from here. Now, a lot of your JIRA instances, they've actually gotten really big because you've expanded JIRA beyond just software. So what have people done? Well, Blue Mountain Capital, they actually use JIRA to track employee time off. There's even a dashboard where you can see who's going to be out of the office today. They also use it to manage investor relations and to track any requests coming in from investors. And actually, the CEO uses it entirely to manage their task with their personal assistant for their entire life, with categories for personal tasks and business tasks and philanthropy tasks. At Honeywell, JIRA is actually really important to their software and their IT practices through and through. But every employee at Honeywell can actually use JIRA to submit a Kaizen, which is kind of like a suggestion or an improvement request for a business. It's a part of their continuous improvement process. Now, those suggestions come in, and the individual managers who own them then triage them, and they begin to track the progress and the execution in JIRA. So their corporate-wide enterprise continuous improvement process, it starts and it ends in JIRA. Now, the LCRA, because I used to live in Austin, Texas, is near and dear to my heart because they keep water parks and electricity running to my old home and things like that. So they're responsible. They're a massive public organization that governs a lot of resources in the central Texas area. And a friend of mine who works there wrote me recently and said, hey, we're using JIRA. And I said, oh, that's awesome. How are your dev teams? He said, no, it's the executive team. We started in the executive team is using JIRA to actually manage our shared set of tasks across the business. And now there's nothing that our executive team doesn't do that's not tracked in JIRA. It helps us understand our shared team goals and understand what everyone else in the management team is doing. And it's no surprise, a lot of different customers use Atlassian for things outside of software. Well, we'd love to hear what you use JIRA for outside of software and outside of IT. So there are a couple of things you can do. One is, we've got a booth where we'll actually record you on video here today, telling us your story about how you use JIRA and how you use Atlassian tools. Or you can email customerstories@atlassian.com. And for the best stories, we're actually going to give you a GoPro Hero 3, so you can even get better at recording and telling your stories of how you use Atlassian tools. You can also check out how another customer uses JIRA. BAE is an Australian company, and they build planes and ships of all sizes for public and private sector organizations. And they said, we use JIRA for everything. And it's crazy. Their issues are things like paint the walls in this particular part of the ship, and their releases are actually sea trials where they send vessels out to sea. So pretty amazing. Definitely check out that talk. And of course, Atlassian actually uses JIRA for a wide variety of things outside of software and outside of IT. So at Atlassian, the finance team, believe it or not, is one of the heaviest users of JIRA, with over 25 different issue types and workflows. The JIRA Service Desk actually gives them sort of a friendly interface, and finance teams are really trying to improve their PR and be friendly with the rest of the organization. And so JIRA Service Desk is a great way for them to service requests, while JIRA manages all the back office automation and process. For instance, our finance team relies on JIRA to actually do our end of the month and end of quarter close, so when they close their books. And there's about 80 to 120 different tasks that often go into what a finance team needs to do for a particular end of quarter close. And so the real power of the JIRA for the finance team is actually that it gives them this distributed project management capability where the entire team has visibility into how things are progressing towards that end of the month or end of the quarter close. Now, Atlassian's interactive marketing team is actually responsible for developing a lot of the content that you see at Summit or through emails or on our website, so designs, images, videos. But their challenge is actually responding from all the different demands around Atlassian, like really needy product families like JIRA who want more and more and more out of them. And so they actually use JIRA Agile to be able to fully prioritize all of their work. So their powerful filtering capabilities actually allow them to see on a per project or a per team or even an individual basis and actually use the tool in different team stand-ups and in different team meetings. Now, JIRA makes the interactive marketing team's workload and progress really clear to everyone in the organization. So if someone needs work prioritized, like this particular issue, they can actually follow this issue through to the Agile board that it's on and actually then have a conversation about the relative priority and where this should belong in the overall ranking inside of Agile. And our IT team uses it, but they use it for recruiting. So each issue in JIRA actually represents a future hire, so a position we're trying to fill. And swim lanes give us the ability to actually divide work by geography. And there were some cases inside of Atlassian where, because all these issues are public, someone saw an opportunity on the recruiting board that actually they felt met their future career path. And so we've actually been able to have people take new opportunities inside of Atlassian because we've made all of this information public and visible in JIRA. So what makes all of these different use cases that I just talked about possible? Well, it's the JIRA platform. It's the JIRA platform that lets us build Agile boards on top for Scrum teams and Kanban teams. It's what let us build JIRA Service Desk on top of the platform for service desk teams so they can have queues and SLAs. Now, both run on that same core JIRA platform of workflows and issue types and custom fields. But we productized JIRA Service Desk in combining very specific features and capabilities for that particular audience. And we built it specifically with the needs of those teams in mind. So we want to take the platform further. We want to take it beyond where we are today, from software teams to service desk teams to all the teams. So, you got to see some of these prototypes earlier today in the Atlassian keynote. I'm going to walk you through them in a little bit more detail about the things of what we're thinking about doing in JIRA in the future. So we've rethought what a team's project experience should be in JIRA. Today, a team might have 4 or 5 different places around JIRA that they go for information. They may go to dashboards. They may go to the issue navigator. They may go to agile boards. They may go to queues in Service Desk. We wanted to unify that and provide a central place for a team to come in JIRA to have all the information that they need. But the needs of different teams are different. Software teams need different things than Service Desk teams. Service Desk teams need very different things from finance or marketing or IT. We want JIRA to deliver the right experience for every project team. But let's start just focused on software teams. Here's a couple examples of software projects. Let's dive into one. So the first thing you notice is that front and center is the Agile board. Our Agile customers, our software customers, the Agile board is everything to them. It's where they spend most of their day, and so that's the most important view for their software teams. They rely heavily on these boards. So by default, a software project in JIRA should have an Agile board. But that's not all. Part of this new project design is a left-hand sidebar that has everything the team cares about. Their Agile boards, the active sprint, releases, reports, but even things outside of JIRA. So the Confluence space that team uses, their HipChat team room, the builds in Bamboo they care about, their repos in Stash or Bitbucket. It's everything in one place that the team can access. There's no need to navigate to other menus or other sections of JIRA. This new project-centric approach contains everything that team works on a daily basis, like the new reimagined versions page that we showed you earlier today. And even an issue itself can have software-specific elements to it. So, fields that are appropriate for software projects, and the development panel that we showed earlier, those are specific for software teams. So even issues in a software project have software-specific sections. Well, what would a service desk look like in this new world? A service desk project in JIRA should look very different because service desk teams care about very different things than software teams. They're about delivering service to their customers. So instead of boards and versions and builds, they care about queues. They care about SLAs and delivering to their customers. And the way a queue of tickets is displayed is very different than an Agile board. Now the service desk sidebar, what should it contain? What cares about those things we just talked about that they care about? Queues, SLAs, specific service desk reports, their knowledge base, and the customer portal that their customers use to submit requests, as well as other Confluence spaces their team may use, their team HipChat room, where they may talk about escalated issues that are coming from customers, or links to other JIRA projects because they want to submit a bug in a JIRA project because of an issue they've found in a system that they service. But we're not stopping with service desk teams. Because of all those use cases we just talked about, finance, HR, marketing, we want to provide a project experience for those teams as well. So first, we'll provide a general project type that could really be used by any team. The default project type for business, it's pretty simple. The issue navigator, a set of issues that those teams care about, and of course the reports they want. But a team could actually customize it and make this their own. So they could add additional filters that have specific meaning for their particular team, making sure everyone on the team has quick access to those urgent issues that the team cares the most about. And of course, they can add their space in Confluence, their HipChat team room, all the other great collaboration tools that Atlassian brings to bear. And what's most important in some cases is actually what's not there. So there's no visible mention of software or bugs or features or versions. A finance team, a marketing team, an HR team can feel like this is their home. And of course, these business projects, they can actually live on the same JIRA instance as software projects and service desk projects. So your organization can have projects of all types, where each team has a project that contains the elements that they need. But much like JIRA Service Desk, where we built specific capabilities specific to those teams, are there specific experiences for other teams that could be created on top of JIRA? Well, of course, the answer is yes. So imagine that you're tracking a recruiting pipeline in JIRA. An agile board may not be the way you want to visualize it. It may look more like a pipeline or a funnel, where you have more and more information the farther a candidate goes in that process. You can have a different visualization for recruits than you have for stories or for service desk tickets. And a JIRA project that would help risk managers, it's going to have a lot of things that have to do with, yeah, no surprise, risk. And so they're going to have a risk matrix. Issues are actually going to be risks. They're going to care about the likelihood and the impact of each individual risk. And they want to live in this view on a daily basis. So every team can actually have a purpose-built experience in JIRA that fits the needs of the team, all on a single JIRA instance. So each team can have custom views of domain-specific information that help them accomplish their work faster in a more collaborative fashion. So all of this means that the great innovation that's been experienced by your software teams, it can actually be experienced by all the teams in your organization, all built on top of the JIRA platform. So where are these new project types going to come from, you may want to ask? Well, some of them, just like JIRA Service Desk, will actually come, and they'll be add-ons that are built by Atlassian. Some of these new project types will actually be built by the Atlassian ecosystem for different domains. And in fact, the Atlassian ecosystem can even improve on the project types that Atlassian brings to bear by making that experience richer and richer. And finally, some will actually be created by you, our customers, either by customizing in their instance and adding links to the specific projects and project types that we provide, or even by writing your own plugin to create a new project type for your JIRA instance. But the technology is not the most important part. The most important part is actually the results and what you achieve. That every team can actually change the way they work. That every team can be faster. That every team can be connected. That every team could have a single shared source of truth that they look at every day. That everyone and every team can actually change for the better. So what does the future hold for our team? What does the future hold for the JIRA team? Well, we're going to accelerate down the path that we've shown you today, making JIRA more and more integrated with dev processes and tooling to help software teams, providing solution to our largest customers at scale to help them their JIRA instances grow and grow, and adding to our data center offering, and expanding JIRA to teams beyond software. So that's what the future holds for us. What's the future for your teams? A lot of you are using JIRA. In fact, in this room, I can pretty much say almost all of you are using JIRA. My question is, if you just replaced your steam engine with an electric dynamo, are you actually going to try to change the way the teams work in your environment? Are you going to affect the lives of maybe the people who sit around you? Or could you affect the way your entire organization works on a daily basis? That's the opportunity that you have in front of you. And that's what we're here to help. That's why we get up every morning. That's why we go to work, is we want to help you make that difference, to find a better way to work. And we wouldn't be here without you. Your participation in Atlassian user groups, your participation in answers.atlassian.com, your participation in feature requests, it means the world to us. It's what we live and breathe on. And since you're here at Summit, you personally have a special and unique opportunity to come talk to us face to face and tell us what you think. What did we do in the last year that really helped change your team? What have you heard here in the last day that really excites you, and why? And tell us how we can improve. So I have the unique privilege to be here and for the entire JIRA team across San Francisco, across Gdansk in Poland, and across Sydney, Australia, which is where I live. I shouldn't have stumbled on that one. To actually say thank you so much for being JIRA customers. We really appreciate it. Thank you being for Summit. Please come say hi at the party at the Big Bash tonight. And so I'll see you all at the party. Thanks again for your rapt attention. Take care, guys.